if you accept that the death penalty is barbaric to begin with, and some people do, and there are others who believe it's a proper method, right, then to the extent that you execute, going back to Paul's point, whether it's a shot in the heart, whether it's an electrocution, or whether it's through lethal injection, what's the distinction? Well, here's the distinction. The distinction is we have an Eighth Amendment. Obviously, we have a Constitution in the country, and that Constitution speaks to cruel and unusual punishment. So the concern with the lawyers here, Ashley, was whether or not this was humane, which sounds a bit contradictory if you look at the death penalty as inhumane in the first instance, well, and that's the issue.
Let me throw this up there. This is all just happened. This execution has just taken place. They're not releasing yet whether they actually used this cocktail or whether in the 11th hour they chose something else. Right. So let me just put that out there for now. But if in fact going into this, the arguments were being made based on this cocktail, sure. I couldn't understand this. McGuire's attorney argued against the state, suggesting that his client would go through, or would at least be at risk to go through something called air hunger. This is a phenomenon where somebody experiences terror as they try to catch their breath.
And you're gasping.
Well, that's because the dilaudid would stop them from breathing.
My question isn't about the medical
yes.
part. My question is about the terror, because that's being included in part of the cruel and unusual punishment. And it's terrifying to walk to the chamber. That's terrifying. All of it is terrifying. What does terror have to do with any of this?
Well, I'll tell you what it has to do with it. What it really has to do with is that people who oppose the death penalty are using every argument they can come up with to stop executions. And they're trying to say that any kind of situation that puts somebody to death puts them in pain and fear. And unfortunately for that argument, the Supreme Court doesn't buy it. Yeah. It's upheld shootings, hangings, and electrocutions. So this argument and the Eighth Amendment has never been applied to the death penalty.
Right. But the issue, though, and in fact, Old Sparky, if you remember, they took out, they used to call Old Sparky the chamber in Florida because it was actually burning people. And so it goes back to the issue of whether or not this is proper and appropriate. Should it be humane to sentence someone to death, to have the death penalty applied, and to have them gasping for air, or should you kill them in a way that is considered to be quick, painless?
And the reality is, there's no humane way to kill somebody. There's no humane way.
And that's the contradiction.
You're ending a human life as punishment for a brutal crime. Now remember the brutality of this crime. He murdered a pregnant woman, and a jury found him guilty. Numerous appellate courts upheld the sentence. He got due process. But as long as America says the death penalty is constitutional, there's going to be pain and terror in execution.